guys, today I'll be explaining the Analects of Confucius 3.17, and without further ado, let's get started. 3.17. Zigong wanted to do away with the practice of sacrificing a lamb in the ceremony of announcing the beginning of a month. The master said, Zigong, you don't want to waste a lamb, whereas I don't want to see the right disappear. Alright, so first some context. Again, Zigong is a disciple of Confucius. And the reason why he doesn't want to have this sacrificing of a lamb anymore is because of the ceremony of announcing the beginning of a month. So during this ceremony, it was a very important custom where the king or the emperor of the Zhou dynasty would announce the new month and give out a calendar to for the new month to his feudal lords who help him govern his empire kind of like state by state. And then these people would then announce the new month in front of their local audience. And also, they would also have a sacrificing of a live lamb. So this was not just a mere ceremony. This was also a very important thing for kind of the unity of the empire and also a symbol for the loyalty of the feudal lords to the emperor. Yeah, it just holds people together, basically. But here in the spring and autumn period, people started to... The feudal lords really wanted to have their own individual power, and so they often fought from one side to another. There were a lot of wars, and then the emperor of the Zhou dynasty was really struggling, and so the empire was just falling apart. And so, of course, you would probably assume that this ceremony isn't really performed that well anymore because of the disorder between the feudal lords, and then the relationship between the feudal lords and the emperor. And so this ceremony was kind of now an empty shell, basically, a hollow shell. So now nobody's really putting any effort into this, and the profound meaning is basically gone, and all that's left is just the act of sacrificing a live lamb. And so Zigong's point of view is very practical, and he's just saying nobody's really wanting to celebrate this thing anyway, and nobody really understands the meaning of it anymore. And plus, it's really economically costly to sacrifice a live lamb, so why give in the effort? And also what he's saying here is that why keep the outer form when the inner form or your inner attitude towards this ceremony is already gone? And so he doesn't want to waste a lamb, so he sees it as this concrete material kind of object that is really just a net loss, a waste for the community. But Confucius doesn't really see it this way. So he says that he doesn't want the right to disappear. So even though he says this, it's not a denial of Zigong's facts, because he knows that people don't really have that inner attitude anymore, and they're just going through the motions just because of this ceremony, just because that this ceremony still exists. Confucius instead sees the lamb as a symbol for the only tangible thing left to the order that this ceremony once had. And So to get rid of the lamb for him is to destroy the last chance of this kind of harmony or unity ever getting back together again. So even in its decayed state, the lamb signals that this is still kind of alive. And so maybe the younger generations will ask, why do we do this? And that is an opportunity for someone to teach them what this ceremony was, and also what a well-ordered society would look like. So there's a potential in there for it to find meaning again. So by saying that he doesn't want the right to disappear, he is not cherishing the empty going through the actions kind of thing. Instead, he's hoping to restore the harmony that this once brought with this action and what this action was supposed to evoke inside you. And so the lamb is the only material residue of this whole well-ordered society kind of thing. So he's just saying that in times of cultural decline, you must cling on to that external form, not just because it's somehow still true or it somehow still has meaning inside it, but instead it's because there could be potential for meaning inside it. And yes, Confucius was aware that ritual without genuine feeling is worthless and meaningless. But he's just saying that you shouldn't abandon this external form completely, because the external form and the internal form are dependent on each other. So you learn a certain virtue by participating in relating things. For example, you learn how to be reverent by participating in reverence, I suppose, and you learn social harmony by participating in the rituals that will evoke these things inside you. So if this lamb or if this ceremony thing is gone, then there's no hope for another person to learn this virtue. So to connect this back to some kind of modern kind of situation, so the national anthem and the Pledge of Allegiance, these are basically the empty shells or the lambs that Confucius is talking about. Because for most people, that kind of nationalism is really just non-existent. We don't really feel that kind of connection anymore. We just go through the motions. We just stand there, put your right hand over your heart, and it's just very, we're just very used to it, and so we don't really, put any actual patriotic emotion into it. And although that's the case, Confucius is just saying that we should still keep this external shell even though it is hollow. Because if you discard it, then you'll discard the shared identity or the actual nationalism that it is supposed to evoke. And so what holds a community together is often its rituals, kind of like in religion. So for example, in Christianity, there's the bread and the wine. So usually, or how I'm used to it, it's just this kind of, at every Sunday or whenever you go to church, they would pass out a little bit of, I don't know if it's bread, it's like crackers, and then wine, which you were supposed to eat and drink. And so what Zigong is saying in this kind of situation, if you would replace this bread and wine ritual with the announcing of the new month ritual, then it would be like Zigong saying, we should just really get rid of the blood and wine thing, because people are just eating it for the enjoyment. It just tastes good, and nobody's really thinking of Jesus, or maybe like a small amount of people are thinking of how Jesus died for our sins, but majority people, no, not really. But Confucius says you shouldn't get rid of it because it's the preservation of the ritual that is important at the end of the day. But if you have the internal attitude necessary, then that's cool. But if you don't, then you should still keep the external form just in case people still want to learn more about it. And yeah, that will be all today. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me, and I'll be more than happy to answer you. And yeah, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!